Hi, this is Jenny Austin, and this is the podcast To Treasure. So, welcome. I just wanted to introduce myself and say that I am so excited about doing this podcast. This is a project I've wanted to do for such a long time, and I'm finally doing it, and we are going to start right now. So, I guess my story starts, and that's kind of always the part that I have such a hard time with, is starting. Do you ever have that issue where you want to tell a story and you don't know where to start? Well, I'm the type of person that starts like in the middle of the story and then I go back and I flash back, and as my husband says, I flash sideways. I do all kinds of these things where I just start talking and it just evolves into this enormous conversation about something that I didn't start talking about in the first place, and it just goes from there. So this podcast may be all over the place. I hope it's not. I hope I'm able to stay on subject, stay focused. But if I do tend to run off, I do apologize. That's just how I talk. So, we're going to start, and we are going to start with a story about a camp. Actually, it's a camp. It was a camp called Crowell Hilaka. It was a camp in Richfield, Ohio. And that is kind of where my story starts, if I really go back and think about it. I used to be a Girl Scout in the 70s. Gosh, that makes me sound old. But anyways, in the 1970s, I was a Girl Scout. I went to St. Albert, the grade school. And I met some really interesting people in grade school. We were a close-knit kind of school. There's only about 60 people in our school. In my class, there's like eight grades, so there was 60 in each grade, and so 60 times 8 is, I don't know, I can't do math in my head. So it was a lot of kids, but it was a small community. I went there with my cousins. I met all kinds of people that I, don't stay in contact with anymore, but, we talk on Facebook or whatever, just like most people do nowadays. But it was something about when you're 10, 11, 12 years old, growing up the way that we did. Everyone went out, they rode their bikes. I lived in a development. There was lots of kids. And it just happened to be the development that I lived in. Most of the people went to this certain Catholic school. And in my area, the Catholic school, again, it was called St. Albert's. So anyways, we moved there. It was great. It was great growing up. Lots of you could walk to everyone's house. You could meet people. The issue was, it wasn't really an issue. Half the kids that were in my development went to St. Albert's, and the other half went to, the grade, they went to the public school there, which was North Railton. So there was kind of this disconnect in my life, and it's always kind of been like that, where I have friends that were from one school, and then I had friends that were from another school. I had friends that were from church. I had friends that were not religious. I had friends that were in Girl Scouts. I had friends that were in another group. And my life has always kind of been like that. It's always been fragmented, where I know people, and I think everyone's life's like that, where you know people from certain things and you do certain things with them, and then you don't interact with them usually again in other parts of your life. Well, Girl Scouts was the one part of my life that went from grade school to middle school, kind of. It went into when my daughter was older and when I was in it as an adult. So it was kind of this thing that just kind of stayed with me, and it was in all kinds of facets of my life. So long and short of it, the beginning of this really has to do with my journey that I had, kind of figuring out as a 9, 10, 11-year-old girl what it meant to have friends. And you could have friends in different parts of your life, but to have friends in Scouts, but also have friends in school, because Scouts and school kind of didn't overlap. Like, I had friends that were in my Scouts that went to public school, and then I met up again with them in different schools, believe it or not. So anyways, so my story begins when I was about 9, 10 years old. I think I was in 3rd grade, and I decided that I wanted to be in Girl Scouts. Now, also to go back a little, one of my best friends from 2nd grade on She was my partner in First Communion practice, actually, and we sat next to each other. She wanted to be in Girl Scouts. So, of course, the good friend I was like, yeah, sure, I'll be in Girl Scouts. I had no idea what Girl Scouts was. My mom had been a campfire girl or something, and she's like, yeah, I was never in Scouts, so you don't need to do that. And I was like, no, I really want to do it. And it was kind of in those days, I was really a big follower. Like, whatever my friends wanted to do, sure, I was going to do it. You know, she played flute, I played flute. Eventually she couldn't play flute anymore, but she played clarinet. But I was just one of those girls that was just like, yeah, I'm just going to do everything my friends do, and then everyone's going to like me. But with Girl Scouts, it was different. With Girl Scouts, it was a group of girls. It was a group of people, and it was almost like a family type setting. And it wasn't a family, but it was just a group of girls. But I really liked it, and I liked it. But the only part I really liked was I didn't like the meetings. I didn't like doing all the stuff and the ceremonies. I just liked camping, because in my family we went camping all the time, and that was like our one part of our family that worked. Like when we went camping, we had a good time most of the time, just like any other family vacation. But when I was camping, there was something about camping when I was outside and I was with people. I had a good time. And it was calm, and we'd go camping with my cousins, and I would go camping. We went camping all the time, like, because we were relatively poor when I was growing up in the 70s. And camping was free. I mean, it wasn't free, but it was cheap. We'd go to Kelly's Island. We would camping, just for some reason, being out in nature and just doing the things that you usually do at home, but doing them in a camper or doing them on a campground or with a bunch of people, somehow just connected you, and it just felt fun. So that's what I really liked about Girl Scouts, was that we would go camping, and that's the only part I ever wanted to do. Like I would miss the meetings, and my mom wouldn't take me. I'd forget my uniform. I was really a bad Girl Scout, but I loved to camp. So that's kind of where this story begins. So imagine me, 1970s. I was in Girl Scouts. I was going to St. Albert's. I had one of my best friends. She was in Girl Scouts with me. I had other friends too. They were in Girl Scouts, and we all kind of meshed, and we had this troop, and we would go camping, and I think I camped 3 times that I can remember. But the first time was okay. I had a good time. The second time, not so great. It wasn't a great experience. My friend, it was at that time in your life where you didn't know how to deal with when your best friend had another friend, and I'll get all into that later. But it was more of a, well, yeah, I'm your friend, but I want to go camp with someone else, which I completely understand, because now that I know that I have ADHD, I had to have been the biggest pain in the ass child because I talk constantly, and I can see how I can like weigh on people sometimes, because I just don't shut up sometimes, and I try my best, but I just talk and talk and talk. So, but then I meet people that have ADHD, and I'm like, oh my god, you are so annoying. Like, why do you talk constantly? And then I realize, oh my god, I do that to people. So I try to shut up. But for this podcast, I get to talk. So that's what we're doing. So anyways, back to my story. So, see, like I said, I digress. So in the 1970s, I was in Girl Scouts. I went to this camp, had a great time. Like I said, went there 2 or 3 times. Had absolutely no idea where this camp was. It seemed like it was way far out in the middle of nowhere. It took us, at least 20, 30 minutes to get there. When you're in your, you're 8 years old, being in a car for half an hour felt like forever. So I had no idea where this place was. So say I went camping, had a great time, had a good experience. I stopped going to Girl Scouts at about, I think, 5th or 6th grade. Okay. Puberty hit, I was done. So now fast forward about 20 years, and I have, been to school, gone to college for a little bit, got married, bought a house, had 2 kids, and the thing that I really wanted to do with my daughter, which I decided kind of early on, was I wanted her to be in Girl Scouts, and that was going to be our thing to do together. And I was going to be the leader, and because I like leading and I like teaching, and to get to know a lot of the kids that she was going to be going to school with. That I thought being a leader would be a good idea. And I was really involved in the school anyways, and I kind of I was volunteer of the year, and I was just very involved in school stuff because it's easy, and you can, I'm good at volunteering. I'm good at doing stuff for free, just like we all are. And anyways, so that was what I did. So by the time I believe she was like 6 years old, she was a daisy, and then by 7 she was a brownie. So when she was a brownie, right before she was a brownie, this thing happened in Girl Scouts, and I have no idea what was going on. I hadn't been in Girl Scouts forever, and all of a sudden they started selling the camps, and I was like like I said, kind of involved in Girl Scouts when I was little, had good recollections of it, had no idea about what I was about to become involved in. And I was just tell you right now, it was a great experience. It was very stressful at times. I have no idea if this is going to work. I have no idea if it's not going to work. There were lots of people involved, but the long and the short of it was that it was one of the best things I have ever done with a group of people. What happened and how it happens is, everyone has their own version, but what really became of this place was, like I said, one of the best experiences I've ever dealt with in my life. The people that I was with, the things that happened, everything just kind of fell into place, and no one knew what was going to happen. No one just said, oh yeah, this is what we're going to do, and it's all going to be hunky-dory, and it's going to be great. And we literally didn't know what we were doing. We just knew that we wanted to save this place. So like I said, I digressed. I went a little bit off script, and I got a little bit ahead of myself. So anyways, when I first went back to Girl Scouts, the big push in Girl Scouts at that point was leadership skills and teaching girls how to be good leaders, and how to instill into girls that you can be a leader. You could do whatever you want. Like you can be a leader, and you can say what you want, and you can get what you want. And just like everyone else, people have to listen, which was never a big thing in the 70s when I was in Girl Scouts as a Girl Scout. It was, you just listen to your leader, and you do what you want to do, and you have fun, and you go on with your life. This was a very big change in the way that Girl Scouts was, I guess, marketing themselves, is that it was a leadership initiative. And I go to my first day camp with my daughter. She's in, I want to say she is in first grade. Right around that time, when she was in first grade, I believe she was 8 or 7, however old you are in first grade, the Girl Scouts, like I said, had changed, and it was more leadership based. The issue is that they still had people in Girl Scouts that were very camp based, that everything was, cooking, crafts, camping. That was a big thing. But there was a lot of campers that were in Girl Scouts, just like I was. Like, I loved the camping part. The leadership part, the book part, the doing and the ceremonies, I was never into that. I was always into camp. And when I went to camp, you have this connection, like I said, with people when you go to camp. And so that's what I remembered about Girl Scouts, and that's what I really liked. And I liked the outdoor part of it, where you just did stuff with people. And when you do stuff with people when you're outside, you really, really do connect with them at a different level, I think. And it's just this feeling of family and something that I really, really enjoyed. So, and I really wanted to bring that to my daughter and to her experience of it. So we're in Girl Scouts, and all of a sudden, they're selling camps. And I have absolutely no idea what's going on. Don't even remember what camp I had gone to when I was in Girl Scouts. No clue. Here, it ends up that the camp that I used to camp at, I had bought a house very close to it, like 5 minutes from it. I had no idea. When I met my husband, he was from Richfield. My grandmother lived in Broadview Heights and used to shop at this place called Country Counter. And it ends up that my husband's family bought a house right down the street from Country Counter, right down the street from this camp that I used to camp at, that nobody knew where it was. It was right behind Country Counter. It was 360 some acres, right in the center of Richfield. And if you know our area, Richfield is it's not affluent, but it's a rural, but it's more high end households and people that live out here. And it literally was hidden because this camp was fenced off from the rest of Richfield that no one knew about. So I had literally no idea where it was. So when I get back into Girl Scouts with my daughter, we find out that we are in a different district. So the way Girl Scouts are set up, it's set up with districts and councils, and it gets really complicated. But long and short of it was that just because I live right over the border into another county, I live in Medina County. I used to live in Cuyahoga. The district that we were in went to a camp called Camp Ledgewood, which is by the national park. I'd never been there, never camped there. Got all involved. I'd take my daughter there. I'm like, oh, this is a really nice camp, blah, blah, blah. Had no idea where this other camp was that I had camped at. I thought it was on some other side of Cleveland. Here, this camp that I camped at as a girl when I lived in North Railton is in my backyard. Like, I literally could walk to it if I wanted to. It is a 5-minute drive, maybe 10 minutes. If I really wanted to walk to it, I could. And I happened to buy a house that's across from another park, which is in the Cleveland Metro Parks. So, which has a lake and a dam. So, I'm really an outdoorsy type person. I like being outdoors. I like the nature of it, and I like the community of it. But it just happened to be that's just where I moved. So, anyways, my daughter is now in first grade. All the camps are being sold. I have no idea why. I am thrown into this. I mean, not really thrown, but I'm always like to be involved. I start to get involved. I start to educate myself. I'm like, where is this place? All of a sudden, they open. The way that council worked was whatever council you were in, that was the camp you went to. So because I had moved to Medina, our camp at the time we could go to was Camp Ledgewood. And that was by the national park. So there's a national park in Cleveland. So we could go to the national park. Well, because they were reconfiguring everything, they opened up all the camps to everyone. Whatever council you were in, you could go to any camp you wanted. So all of a sudden, we could go to Crowell Hilaka, which is literally is in my backyard. But I live right on the border between Medina County, Summit County, and Cuyahoga County. And that's also another story for another day, but it seems like I've always done that my entire life. Even when I lived in North Railton, I lived on the corner of 3 other counties or 3 other cities. So anyways, I digress. So anyways, they had opened up this other camp, and I'm like, oh my gosh. I said, Megan, let's go to this other camp. They're having a day camp. They need some help. We're gonna volunteer. So I volunteer for what was called Rainbow Camp because I needed some volunteers. It was right down the street from me, and I'm like, I'll do it. It's no big deal. I had taken her to another day camp, which was in Hinckley, which was across the street from us. And I was like, yeah, we'll go to it. So we go to it. Here, I come to find out that this is the camp that I went to as a child. I had literally no idea where it was, what it was, where it was, and here it is 2 minutes from my house, and this flood of memories start coming back. Oh my gosh, this is where I walked. This is the house that we camped in. These are the camp places it was just this, I don't know what it is about when you find a place that you used to visit as a child, as an adult. There's just this flood of memories that come back, and all of a sudden it's like you're 10, 11, 12 years old again, like you were when you were there. The big thing is that this camp partially had been shut down because part of it was the way that the camp works, or the way the property works, is it's almost on 2 levels. There's a front entrance and then there's a back entrance, and the front entrance was still open when I camped there, and then the back entrance was also open when I camped there, but it had been shut down in the late 80s. And that part of it had the bouncy house in it. It had, which was the bouncy house, but it had the place where when you jumped, the floor moved. That is the only part of this camp I remember, was the floor that jiggled, and this feeling that you had when you were on it. And and of course I thought, oh, we're going to get in there and the whole floor is going to, go bouncy, bouncy, bouncy. It doesn't. It just jiggles. So that literally is the only thing I remembered about this camp. So as I'm at day camp and I'm talking, that part of the camp had been closed. So I had no idea I was in the camp that I used to camp at. And we're doing day camp and we're walking around and it's, everyone's having a good time. And it was a little stressful because we had just learned that this camp might be shut down, and we were trying to start a petition to get it not shut down so the Girl Scouts would keep it, and I met all these great people. The crazy part is that I had no idea at the time I was there at Rainbow Camp that this was the camp I had camped at until we spent the night. So we spent the night, my daughter and I spent the night, and we're talking to people. You get kind of involved with the people that you're there with, and it was great. And I'm like, you know what, I'll spend the night. So we spend the night, and we then go and as the good Girl Scout I am, we broke into the other side of the camp because I wanted to see it. And I was told that there was a bouncy house. And I'm like, oh my Lord, this is the place I used to camp. And I'm like, okay, we're going over to the other side. So we go over to the other side. We literally have to break in because you're not supposed to be over there. And we did. We open the door, we get in, and we start bouncing and jumping on the floor. Holy, oh my Lord. It was one of the best experiences I've ever had as an adult. It was amazing. So here I am in Richfield Ohio, which I had no idea where it was the place that the floor bounced. And I'm like, this is so cool. Like, I remember this. Like, I literally remember being here at 10 years old, and we start jumping on the floor. The feeling that you get when the floor moves but the building doesn't is something that I can't explain. It's almost like being on a roller coaster. It is just, your stomach drops, your equilibrium is off. I just remember looking out that window, looking at the lake, and I was 11 years old again. I was jumping on the floor, and that feeling just came back in my stomach where like, this is so cool and this is so fun and this is so new. But it wasn't, because I was 30. But it was really, really cool. And like I said, I just don't know. It's just, I don't know if it was in that moment that I decided, oh yeah, I definitely want to be involved in this and I definitely want to help save this place. But I don't know what it was, but I just know that in that moment, I was 10 years old again. And I'm like, this is the coolest feeling ever. And if I can duplicate this, and if this could be like a normal, then this is fun. Like, it's like almost like time travel. So I decided, yeah, at that moment, maybe it was, at that moment, maybe it wasn't, maybe it was later. But I'm like, this is really cool, and I want to be involved in this. Richfield, it's kind of a funny story about Richfield. Richfield is called Richfield for a reason. I can't remember why it was called Richfield, but anyways, it was named after somebody. The facility was created for square dancing. So Richfield Hall is on springs. So the bottom of Richfield, the floor, is actually on dirt, I believe, but is on these huge railroad springs, like huge industrial springs. And I guess they used to do this for square dancing. And it was like one of a kind thing. And it was at the Girl Scout camp. And like I said, that's what I remembered. So they're now redoing Richfield, which is kind of cool. They're just redoing it, and it's going to be really, really cool, and it's going to be very interesting. So it was so cool because like they just opened the floor, and I'm going to be able to see it again. So anyways, so like I said, I digress. So I'm in Richfield. I'm jumping on that floor. I'm looking out the window, and I'm like, this is what I remember. This is like one of those memories that you just know happened, and you know it's happening again. And I don't know what it was in that moment. It was just, okay, yeah, I definitely want to be involved in helping to save this place. And at that time, what was going on was that the camp possibly was going to be closed, or it was going to get sold, or it was going to be used as, it might turn into a park, it might turn into a camping site. We had no idea what was going to happen with this property. But I just knew with the people I was with, they were so involved, they were so nice, they just wanted to save this property. And I'm like, okay, I'm in, I'm gonna do what I can, I'm gonna help, I got a kid, I live fairly close to the property, so I'll help. And that was it. There was just something that clicked in my head, and I'm like, yep, I'm gonna help, I'm gonna be involved in this. So here we are. It's like 15 years later, and guess what? We saved it. But and that's like a spoiler, so I may take that out. But we did. We saved it. It's now a park. It's great. It's People can go to it. They can enjoy it. It is such a pretty place. It was literally. I always say it's like a time capsule. Nature's kind of like a time capsule, especially a park. When you just leave it alone, it still has some of the interesting buildings that were there when I was at camp. It still has a big lodge. It's a great piece of property, and it's a great park. And the people that helped save it were Girl Scouts. There's other people that were involved. There's a lot of other people that were involved. Actually, there was a ton of other people that were involved, and it took a huge community of people that had loved this place and wanted to do something to save it. And I think that's just the whole story of what I'm trying to tell people, is that we had no idea what we were doing. Like, no, I mean, we knew what we wanted to have happen. We wanted that place to be saved. At that point, I don't think we even knew why we wanted it to be saved. We just knew that as Girl Scouts and as people who had grown up there, or had not grown up there, but had, things that had happened to us as we were growing up there, or as we were growing and as we were children, that those memories meant something to us. And it was just this cathartic, just almost spiritual. I don't know how to explain it. It was just this weird coming together of people that wanted to save this property, but really didn't know why. And I think that in going through all this, like it's almost been 15 years, going through it and looking back and thinking, why was it so important to us to save it? That's kind of what I want to explore in this podcast, is what is it about nature that makes us so connected to each other, so connected to the nature itself, but also it's the relationship that you make, and the people that you meet, and the things that happen to you in nature that just stay with you somehow. And I don't know what it is, and I don't know if we miss it now that we're more disconnected or connected to each other than ever, like through technology. And I used to love technology, but now I'm almost like, no, I don't want the technology. I want to see people. I want to be with people. Like I want to be around people, but yet sometimes I don't want to be around people. So how do you balance that in your life? Like with COVID and being with people, we couldn't be with people for almost 3 years or 2 years. And then all of a sudden we were thrown back in with people. And oh my God, I was like, oh my God, I have too much to do. Like, just stay away from me. I liked it during COVID. I liked it where I could only do 4 things in one day instead of 15. Like, there is something about nature that makes us slow down, and it makes us pay attention to what's important. And I think that is what we miss nowadays, where we need that pause in our life. We need that, I need to just take a rest. Like, I need to sit on my deck, even if I got trucks going up and down my road, and I need to talk to this recorder, and I need to talk and tell people, or just be like, this is what happened to me. I don't know if it happened to you. Is it a connection that we have? Is it not a connection that we have? I don't know. I don't know, but I miss it. I miss those connections with people. I miss being able to just sit and talk and not have to have an agenda, and not have to talk about politics, or not have to talk about who did what, or talk about this person's life or that person's life or this person's kids or what they're, I don't care. I mean, I want to just sit and talk, have a good time, eat some food, maybe have a picnic, walk outside, be in nature, and know that other people have the same things going on in their life that I do. I don't want to boast about it. I don't want to talk about it forever. I don't want to post 15 billion pictures about it. I just want to have a connection. And I miss it. I really do. I miss it. I miss those connections that I had when I was 10, 11, and 12. And I'm not telling you that everything in my life was great at 10, 11, and 12, but I made those friends. It's like that movie, Stand By Me. There is something that happens when you're at that age. Those friends that you make in those early childhood, when you're in those points of your life, or any parts of your life, you make those friends and they're like friends forever. Like, they can come in and out of your life. You're always going to be friends with them. You're always going to love them. You may not ever see them again, but there's something about those friendships that just stick with you. And they're always there. And they never go away. And it's so interesting to talk about and think about. And all of my situations and all of my really, really good friendships have stemmed from us going on vacation together, camping together, being in a group together, even like retreats together. Just something about being in a situation where you're with 5, 6, 7, maybe 8 people, and you just sit and talk. And so that's what I want this podcast to be. I want people to remember those situations and those things that happened to them and share them with other people and say, this is what I treasure in life. This is what we should treasure in life. That the treasure in life is other people. It's your relationships with other people. It's your experiences with other people. It's what you did when you were 10, 11, or 12 years old that now you can remember and be like, oh my gosh, that was so cool. And I want my kids to have that. Or maybe I don't want my kids to have that. But you remember those times and you're like, that was a good time in my life. I can put that down. And it's not like a checkbox. It's not like, okay, I did it, check, go on to the next thing. It's, I really enjoyed that and I want to do that again. And that's what I want this podcast to encompass. I want it to be a way to just sit and listen to other people's experiences, others people's just good times, and be like, yeah, I remember that. Or yeah, I want to do that. Or yeah, let's go do that. Let's just go take a walk. Let's just go have a hike. Let's just go talk and just be people and not have anything else to have to do. There's no kids, there's no house, there's no this, there's no I have to go do that, there's no vacation over here, there's no this person has something better than I do and I want that, and there's no envy, and there's nothing except let's just go talk, or let's just go walk around, enjoy life, enjoy the birds, enjoy nature, have some calm times together, and share and be people and just want to be around people. I don't know. Like I said, I'm sorry. I got kind of preachy there. So anyways, so that's what this podcast I think is going to be about. It's just going to be people's experiences with nature and how it really, really, really just helps you, and how it is just one of those things in life that we need to keep. We need to cherish it. We need to treasure it. We need to make sure it is around for the rest of us. So thank you for listening to my podcast. This has been To Treasure. This has been great. I loved telling my story about Crowell Hilaka, and there's going to be many more episodes. We're going to dive deeper into how the park was created, how the camp ceased to be, all the things that went into the camp ceasing to exist and it becoming a park, and the park board, and everything that was done to create this really, really great park. And this podcast won't just be about Crowell Hilaka, but that's going to be the start of it. And then I want to end all of our episodes with something that I learned actually in Girl Scouts. It was a seminar that I went to, and I think it was a class, not really a seminar. It was a class that we went to, and it was about exploring who you are as a person. And it was, we kind of explain ourselves in nouns a lot of the times. Like we explain who we are and what we do, and we really don't think about what it is we actually do, like our actual function, our actual action words, like what action we want to be known as. So in this class, it was exploring the labels that we put on each other. And my biggest label, and I think everyone's biggest label is, at least for my generation, are you a parent? Are you not a parent? What do you do for a living? Where do you live? Where do you not live? Like, what do you do? Like all kinds of different labels. So like if you were to explain yourself and you're a typical, like right now I'm in my 50s, grew up in the 70s, late 70s. Actually, I grew up in the late 70s. I know in the when I was explaining when I was in Girl Scouts, I actually just thought about it. I was born in the early 70s. I didn't go to Camp Crowell Hilaka until I was almost 8 or 9. So it was like the late 70s, early 80s is when I was there. So in that time, like as you're going through life, you pick up and kind of label yourself as, I'm a daughter, I'm a sister, I'm a mother, I'm a community volunteer, you just kind of pick up these titles, and they don't really explain who you are. They label you, but they don't explain who you are, what you want to do, or the actions in your life that you want to accomplish. So this class was like, you need to explain yourself in 3 verbs. It can't be a noun. It could be an adjective. So it could be an adjective, a verb, or an adverb. Not a lot of people know what any of those are. Most people know what a noun is, so it's person, place, or thing. And every other word you could use for the most part, but it couldn't be a person, a place, or a thing. And I think back to those Schoolhouse Rock things, which is what the little things which they taught me what English was. But anyway, so what we're going to do at the end of each episode is I am going to be either giving my 3 verbs, or I will be asking somebody what their 3 verbs are, and then I'll kind of explain the process. And so what I've always come up with is my 3 verbs are exploring, because I love to explore, I love to travel. Volunteering, because I like to volunteer, I like to work with other people, I like to do things with other people. And my biggest verb is communicating. And if you notice, all those have ing on the end of them. That's also another big thing where an action word or something that you do usually ends in ing. It doesn't have to, but it can. So mine is exploring, volunteering, and communicating. So I just want you to kind of think about that and decide what your 3 verbs are. And again, thank you for listening. And this has been To Treasure, and this is Jenny Austin, and that's my first episode. And I hope you come back to listen to my second one. And thanks a lot. Bye-bye.